Hey, what's going on out there, everybody? Welcome to another Addicted Fishing podcast. We are cranking these things out because it's like tradition to talk about exactly the frequency that we've been putting out these podcasts. So I just want to take note that I think this is like week 5 in a row. And which is, if you guys listen to them, well, you're welcome, I guess. But bad news is we are heading to Astoria. We are sitting here on July 27th. A couple more days for opening day, and then we're going to be doing live fishing the whole month of August. So this is probably the last podcast in a while, but it's one of my near and dear to my heart favorite subjects. And we're talking Tules. And I brought two of the best Thule killing mofos in the Pacific Northwest into podcast studio. That's Mr. Blair Johnson and Casey Kelly. Good buddies of mine. So, but guides down in the Lower Columbia and have extensive knowledge of mass murdering of Tules. And no, I'm totally kidding, guys. These guys want, when it comes to the Thule talk, it's always fun to shame your buddies. But the reality is there's a lot of them. Anybody who's participated in the Columbia River has probably killed one or two or millions like these two. And
on a weekly.
But that's just the reality of the fishery. But with that said, there's some constraining stocks and some stuff in there that we need to talk about. And I figured to bring these two guys along. So what's going on?
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, just getting ready, man. It's going to be a wild one, I think, this year. We got a ton of fish out in the ocean. And I think there's going to be a ton of Tules to be caught, especially the first 20 days.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about the Tules. They definitely are in the system earlier than the upriver brights. And so when we see August 1st openers, when we're seeing ocean fishing in Marine Area 1 out there in, July, it tends to be very heavily Tuled, but people don't really associate a lot of these early, quote unquote, early fish as Tules. But the reality is that is what they are. And the percentage of fish that are going to be in the buoy 10 fishery for the first 2 weeks are going to be lower river stock fish. It's just the physiology of them. That's the timing of them. They show up early. And they go up into these little lower end of tribs, and they're closer to spawn. But these Tules actually do start as a very good, very high quality fish, high quality enough so that we actually stock them in the lower river, the hatchery Tules, for Canadian mitigation off of our spring Chinook. So basically, we have an agreement with Canada and parts of Alaska that if we don't plant X amount of these early returning Thule stocks so the Canadian fishermen can get them, then they basically go out and catch and kill our spring Chinook. So
we can't have that.
Yeah, next time you want to cry about hatchery Tules, there's so many hatchery Tules. Well, guess what? If you want springers, it's probably a good way to be. And that was actually settled in federal court, and it's a big mitigation thing. In fact, so there's hatcheries dedicated on the Columbia River to putting those fish out.
I wasn't aware of that. I've never heard that before.
Yep, that's Spring Creek Hatchery, federal hatchery up there by straight across from Hood River is literally a Thule farm.
Yeah.
But with that said, they still forecast, so that's a BPH Thule, so Bonneville Pool Hatchery, and with that said, that return is forecasted to be really strong this year, 90,000 fish, which some years it's 40, 50,000. So we're going to see a lot of those fish, and those fish do show up early in the fishery. They also show up a lot at Drano, Wind, Eagle Creek, and some of those other cold water fisheries too, just above Bonneville. But they're very present in our lower Columbia fisheries, as is the Kalama fish, Big Creek. There's a few other places that have them too, but mixed in with all those hatchery fish, the cowlets, that's right. Mixed in with all those hatchery fish, though, there are wild stocks of Tules. And the problem is, we are not allowed to kill the true wild Thule stocks that go into Cedar Creek in the North Fork Lewis. There are some unclipped, I'll call them unclipped, but there are some actual wild Tules that go into Kalama, which is why they have that rack and weir to sort them in the lower end. Gray's River, I believe, has some. Washougal.
I believe they're mostly unclipped.
Yeah, no, the wild Tules are unclipped.
Big Creek, I think, is a natural one too.
Is it? I know they do some. I know they do some mitigation stuff there too. Not mitigation, but they do some hatchery stuff there too. But the idea is that there are these other strains, or excuse me, these other stocks of fish in the Lower Columbia that we can't handle. They're ESA protected, and it's kind of funny because we We just absolutely go ham and blast all these hatchery fish into the system, all these hatchery early returning fish into the system. But then there's wilds too that we have to protect. So it's kind of a weird thing because, down at Buoy 10, when it's hatchery only season until the 24th this year, like we're going to run into a pretty good percentage of clipped fish. But unfortunately, a lot of those things are probably going to be Tules in the first couple of weeks. So
what do you say about that? What's
Well,
going to happen in your boat?
I'm bonking every hatchery fish I can get. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I might be.
You might be.
I don't know.
Why not?
Not if I mean,
There's kind of ways to tell between a good one and a bad one. I'm not going to get into that, but it is what it is. We got to deal with what we got to deal with, and it's gonna create constant action throughout the whole period, I believe. I think there is a ton of fish. Every run is up. I think it's teeming with fish out in the ocean right now. It's going to give us great action, and we'll make do.
Right. Problem is, though, is if we get too much action on those Tules, they're going to close us down.
well, I just mean, like, we're looking for hatchery fish. We're going to be letting go a bunch of nice wild fish that we would obviously like to put in the box, but at the end of the day, our clients do want to take fish home. If it's a good-looking chrome bright fish, and it's a hatchery, I'm guessing like, oh, big spots looks Tule-ish, but man, it's laser bright. That one's probably going in the box with me. Not a stink pot, brown, ugly one that's hatchery. That one will probably go back. But I'm just saying, yeah, we kind of know this one's probably a Tule, but it looks really good. And this guy's already let 2 upriver brights go today.
Right.
There seems to be a difference between junker Tules and quality ones too.
But they still all go against us from what Cameron's told me.
Right. So because it's hatchery only, we're not killing wild Tules, which is a good thing. But those hatchery Tules with the forecasted amount that they have with that number and the forecasted amount of the wild number, basically those hatchery Tules are representing a certain percentage of the wilds. And so for every hatchery Tule we still do kill, actually does go against our wild Tule quota, but it is a fraction of what it would be because of killing the wilds. It's not the act of killing the hatchery Tule that counts. It's just that represents the wild. So like I'm going to try to do some fuzzy math here just to give you guys like the kind of the concept of this. And then where we're going to go with this is like what I think us as sportsmen should be trying to do in this fishery. And it's, it's really hard to tell people what they should do with a legally allowable fish.
Mm-hmm.
But put this in perspective. Let's say there was 10,000 wild Tules predicted for the Columbia River, and there was 100,000 hatchery fish predicted for the Columbia River, hatchery Tule. So let's say we catch 10 hatchery Tules. What does that probably mean? That we did catch one. It's a 10-to-1 ratio, right? So we caught one wild Tule. Well, we couldn't kill that wild Tule. But then that wild Tule got released. But in the act of releasing them, there's still a mortality rate. It's 19%. Is what they say. There's studies that go against that, but it's 19%. That's what's applied. So those little singular, those tens of hatchery fish that are representing those single wild fish, well, for every 5 of those single wild fish we catch, they assume 1 dies. And so you can see why that starts to really chip away, not really chip away, but slowly chip away.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the, I feel bad because I tried to get a hold of one of the managers today and to see exactly what we used in the first 10 days of the 10 days of the Buoy 10 fishery, but it was pretty minuscule. What shut us down last year in the Buoy 10 fishery was when we went wide open on the 11th, there was still a whole lot of wild Tules in the fishery. It wasn't the first 10 days we used a very, very, very small portion of the wild impacts because it gets kind of broken down. Now, when it's wild only season, every wild one you bring in, well, it's dead. And out of the total catch, like when they only check 20 anglers and they check 5 wild Tules with those 20 anglers, well, then that represents that the whole fleet
killed that many.
20 or 25% of them all killed a wild Tule. And now you went from this really tiny like cut down number from the hatchery Tules representing the wilds, and then 1 out of 5 of the wilds dying, to okay, now 25% of the boats out there in the fleet all killed a wild Tule today,
which didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know those exact numbers, but you can understand how that number can balloon quickly.
They have to go by that.
There's no other way.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's my thing. Here's my question to you, because I'm just learning as much as I can about this, like right now, because it's such a big deal in the Northwest, seems like in the last few years. But so say 4 years ago at Buoy 10 or whatever, just any other year that before we went to this hatchery only thing, you and I went out and we're dumping those Tules back because we're trying to catch upriver bites for our clients or whatever. Okay, so but then last year I probably killed more hatchery Tules than I did the year before because I'm letting so many wilds go. I'm trying to send my folks home with my clients home with fish that I'm going to bonk the marginal hatchery fish, right? But that's counting against us, and it's counting against us on a year that they are making it hatchery only. So it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Because that wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't be doing that if they didn't make it hatchery only. But I'm bringing in hatchery Tules because they're making me kill hatchery fish.
Right, but the problem is you are not the whole sport fleet. And the sport fleet can't help themselves when it comes to wild Tules. So, like, let's say the fishery is open for wild fish. And, you know, it's not generally you or the guides that are now, I'm not going to say all guides because
we know that's not
we've all
true.
seen it. But when it comes to the wild part of it, keep in mind that bang for the buck, right? You start bonking wild Tules, it hurts you 5 times more than that little representative sample, right? And so it's been known that, like, if we, go to this hatchery only, it slows down that wild Tule kill. Now, keep in mind, too, a few years ago, everything's really different because depending on where those forecast numbers come in, like I can't remember the exact numbers, but there might be a year
we're not worried about.
We're not worried about it. Exactly.
No, I understand.
And to put things into perspective and how fast we shut down last year, this year our wild Tule take
is
like half of what we got last year.
Which is crazy.
That's bad.
Which is crazy. So it's dangerous.
How do they even get that?
It's all from forecasting, spawning ground surveys, ocean. Now, obviously, their forecasting has been tough, and I wish they could take some of this stuff into consideration. But the problem with lower river Tules, too, these wilds, is there's very little in-season management because they're all just paper fish until they're on the spawning grounds.
They're going to a little river with no dam.
Right.
They
can't
get counted correctly and all that.
Right. There was which then by the time they're spawning, obviously they're gone past us, which is good or bad, whatever. But there's been other years where the constraining stocks of the fishery were like upriver brights. Upriver brights numbers weren't that strong. Well, once they started pouring over the dam, well, guess what?
Game on.
They were shown, and they were physical fish, counted fish. They got pit tags. They had pit tag receivers in the Bonneville Dam. They're counting them. They have a hard number. They're not paper fish anymore. They're real fish. So it's kind of a challenge within the fishery. Now, how's this all like pertaining to us this year is, you talked on an earlier case was like the early, like stink pot Tules and laser bright Tules, right? The reality is us as anglers, any hatchery fish is legal, right? Any hatchery fish is legal. It's really hard to tell people that, have tough days of fishing or whatever, or they traveled from a long way, and you got to realize, like, just going to say it, like, we're not, there's a lot of people that are really good down there, but there's a lot of people that really aren't, and there's a lot of them. And they catch a few fish, right? Which is great. That's the thing about Buoy 10, man. There's a lot of fish. It's a target-rich environment. It's a great opportunity for everyone to get it. But you're trying to tell people that, set a vacation, hauled their boat from somewhere far away, and they caught 2 fish all weekend, and now you're telling them to throw legal fish back. It's tough.
Yeah, I've had some sort of bad experiences telling the guy from Wyoming, like, hey, this is a Tule. You don't want this fish. We'll get another one. And he looked at me cross-eyed like no one's ever looked at me cross-eyed before. And I told him, I just assured him, like, we'll get another one. Trust me, this is not a quality fish. Your dog is going to put its nose up to this. And it worked out, but that's what we all deal with.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. Yeah. Or, an 8-year-old catches their first salmon on a tough day. We all have tough days down there. It is Buoy 10. It's not just a fish factory all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you try to, tell someone on a tough day, your little kid's first salmon. There's all these things that go into it. But the reality is like we should try to kill like everybody, all in, guides, anglers, just everybody in the fishery. I think if we avoid, killing a bunch of, 25-inch little tiny dark Tules that are really prevalent, like let's use those impacts, but let's use them like on quality fish. And
Absolutely.
I think there needs to be that discussion within the sport fleet, because I will be the first to say it. There's a ton of guides out there that will go out and catch 6 fish before 8 a.m. and 3 of them are 24 and a half, which the legal fish down there is 24 inches.
Yep.
Or 22. I always forget.
24.
24. I always mix it up with ocean and ling and whatever. Anyway, it's 24 inches, and they catch a barely legal fish that's like already turning dark. Like, and we all know this.
And those are the worst ones. Those are the worst.
So why, as anglers, there's got to be a line, and I think everybody's boat is going to be different. Some boats it's just going to be any legal fish, bonk.
Yep.
And some boats it's going to be no Tules. We don't care if we go in with nothing.
Yep.
And then there's going to be kind of the guys in the middle. And I just feel like if we're going to burn impacts and we're going to burn our time, knowing that we've got great upriver bright fisheries ahead.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the face to start this fish route, because that's what ends up happening is we close down one section and then everyone piles into the other section and everyone piles in. And that's exactly what happened last year when Buoy 10 shut down. It was supposed to go to Labor Day. It only went 8 days during the wild fishery. Everybody piled up to the mouth of the Cowlitz, and that had more wild Thule recoveries and
way more impact
than Buoy 10 did at the end of it when it rolled up. And then it shut down even above Bonneville, or shut down not above Bonneville, to Bonneville. Shut the whole damn thing down because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things cleaned up and some of the fish got into the tributaries, they rolled the numbers and pulled the tags and kind of looked at it and realized they probably had a little better run, which actually was funny, truth be told.
A lot more room.
What was it? 2 days it was closed? 2-3 days is all?
Only 2 days or something. Yeah.
No,
We were only closed. Yeah,
I think it was like a week. No, it was a week.
No.
The year before, I think it was a week.
Year before was a week. Last year I went and spent $1,600 on hover rods. Went up there one day and they reopened it the next day and it was wide open the rest of the year. That was last year. It was closed for 2.
I'm like gonna go right back through my phone.
Look
and
at your
call you. I'm
pictures.
gonna call you on this, brah.
3 days. 3 days, bruh.
I'm gonna call. Okay, now went from 2 to 3.
No, I said 2 or 3.
Well, 2 or 3 days. It wasn't long. It was less than a week.
They had their meeting right away.
I do believe it was less than a week.
And boom.
It was pretty quick because they realized, okay, I think we're going to be good. But then they didn't open it below Warrior Rock. They only kept it above Warrior. And the guy, one of the fish managers kind of told me, he's like, look, man, we can only afford like another handful. Like we're talking like on a single hand, a tag recovery.
Yeah, if we
what
get
are they-
one
yeah.
more tag recovery, it's
It
big
was
trouble.
over. So then we kind of got on the horn and said, do not kill dark fish above Warrior Rock, because the reality is if 5 or 10 of those things would have died and came in,
Shut us all.
they would have had to
if
shut
they
it
would have
down.
got one pit.
People
tag
don't
recovery.
realize that the state has to manage these fisheries within certain guidelines, or else NOAA shuts them down or restricts the numbers of fish. Like you lose these exploitation rates, and they get way more restrictive than they are now. Like, could you imagine like going into a fall season and now we're only allowed to catch half of what we were able to catch the year before? The state has to prove its management.
It's so hard, man.
No one gets control of it and really reaps it.
It's so flawed. I mean, it's so hard. I don't know that it's flawed. It's just like almost an impossible task, but it seems that way right now, but to me anyway, but we're going to let these boys go smash on these fish.
1, 2, 3. I at least have 4 days where I was upriver.
Okay, maybe 4
We'll
days.
split the difference.
I mean, I don't know. You tell me where that picture's at.
Maybe 4
It was
days.
a short time, but that's the challenge of that's the challenge of the management, though.
But the flip side is like, okay, we're coming down on us so hard in the Columbia, yet we're going to beg people to go fish our local rivers and give them a 3 fish limit when there isn't even 10 hatchery fish in there, and they're going to egg gag all these wild tules that we're trying to protect in the Columbia, and they're going to catch 30 of them, and one of them might be a hatchery.
Yep.
That's not a problem.
That's to clean up a whole nother mess, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could say that, but
No,
I
that's
mean,
what they say. It's
that's
the,
what they
the lower
say.
tribs with some of these, I'll just say it, with the Kalama Weir, bumps hatchery fish back out into the system, and then those fish stray into wild areas that they do not want the hatchery fish to be.
all they have to do is put that trap up in the top end of their system.
Well, they're lower river spawners. They spawn below the trap too.
No, they all fly up that river, dude. When that trap broke 5 years ago,
Yeah.
the canyon was plugged
Well,
full.
of course, because you had 18,000. One year there was like 18,000 pulled out of that weir in that little tiny river. So of course, you remove that weir, here they come.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. They'll spread throughout
They
the
can
whole
move
system
it.
and spawn,
they'll
though.
still spawn below it too.
They can move it to the... Just because they're a lower river spawner doesn't mean they spawn low in their river.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It means that they're going into a river in the lower Columbia. It doesn't mean they spawn low in their river. They're a lower river spawner, like low in the Columbia.
Right.
Doesn't mean they hit the gravel right when they get in that river and they spawn.
They do and can and will.
Well, just like a hatchery winter steelhead could end up, I guess, spawning. But I would say for the most part, lower river Tule means lower Columbia River.
Right, except for the ones that we put in above Bonneville.
Right.
That's more representative of the area of the river they're going to, not where in the river, the tributary that are spawning, though.
Spawning. Yeah.
We've noticed on the river Cameron I fished a lot in the last few years, they're getting lower and lower and lower. We're seeing reds from sections of the river down that I don't recall ever seeing as many reds as I have in the past 3-4 years.
Which is crazy to me because I truly believe that with that rack system, they bump out those fish, then just find the nearest gravel.
Yeah,
they can because
yeah.
they've already they
Stuck
their nose in there.
Yep.
And I think that they spawn and die, and I know they show up in carcass surveys, but some on that river they don't carcass survey usually down that low.
No, they don't.
But I've seen them, and they do spawn. But guess what? Those fish all then come back as wild, untamed Tule Chinook.
So
The
So
oldest,
it's pretty,
oldest in the Northwest.
It's pretty
They
screwed up.
need-
And
if
so
they
basically,
move it
what
up-
the biggest the bitch is that, like I said, we do have wild tules that we try to protect in some of these lower tribs to the point that we shut down the Bowie 10 fishery, we shut down the Mid-River Columbia fishery, and then yet they are allowed to then be caught and released over and over and over again in very intensive bait fisheries in those lower tribs to clean up excess hatchery fish that have strayed from other projects. And it's kind of lame.
It's a mess because, I mean, yeah, the people in the know that there is
it's crap.
there's 20 fish getting gagged.
But what else do you do? Do you keep it closed and let the hatchery fish just mingle with them? Like they don't want that because there's PHOS rates that they have to stay in
They're
line.
not even catching any hatchery fish.
Dude, I remember
There are.
There
They're
are,
not,
but
dude.
it's like
On
2
my
out of
river,
20.
they're not.
It's 2 out of 20. If
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
and,
no.
and days that you don't get one.
Oh, plenty of days you don't get one.
You don't get. You don't kill one.
Casey and I have had to fish that fishery a couple times when they closed the Columbia early for whatever reason, bright constraints or any of that. And literally, if we did spent a lot of days catching a lot of fish and
Releasing
getting
them.
maybe one.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year I remember a day we landed 28 Chinook and we kept 3. The day after we landed 24 or 25 and we killed 1.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the day, but those are,
But they are there.
yeah, they're there.
There's a percentage of hatchery
Yeah.
fish there. So,
Small.
but to move it to 3, it's like, okay, when is anybody limiting out on 2 to begin with, let
Well,
alone 3?
Yeah.
But I guess you never know what could happen. I mean, then again, we do have big returns coming for the hatchery fish at Bonneville Pool, bigger than I think normal, and so I think there could be a lot of hatchery fish. But we've kind of gone off a tangent. It's a tough game, and it's what the managers have to deal with. We want those hatchery Springer Tules. We absolutely want them in the system because we want to get I said Springer Tules.
Mm-hmm.
Back that up. We want those hatchery fall Tules. We want those fish, for the mitigations that we have to basically do or required to do as
Right.
the state agency. So they don't touch our springers. Like at the end of the day, we want those, needs to happen. But I think as anglers, when it comes down to bonking fish, I think hatchery Tules are good to go. Bonk them, but
Kill the good ones.
Be
reasonable.
Be reasonable. 24.5-inch green hatchery Thule. Go
Stink
ahead and
pots.
let him live. He's going to cut white.
Right.
Let him live.
Right. And that's the point of it, guys. So anyways, we got to run. We've got a live feed. We're going to be bringing up a bunch of live pictures and whatnot to discuss tonight. It's always a good discussion. For those of you guys that we'll see you guys out at Buoy 10 waving and saying hi. We'll be doing some live fishing. And thank you, Casey and Blair, for coming in. I think everyone's kind of got
betcha.
Same consensus. And
absolutely.
Yeah, you guys have a really good season. We'll be back at you here in a little while. I just don't know when that is. No promises. Catch you guys later.
Later.